Cool. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our chat and learn. We got a great panel today. We got two folks here with us, so buckle up. We're gonna have a great chat today. So if this is your first chat and learn with Power to Fly, welcome. We have an hour-long chat here, and we encourage you to participate. So feel free to turn on your cameras. It's a great way to. Oh, there's my dog making a cameo as promised. That's Francis. He's learning how to greet people that are blocks away. So he may make an on-camera appearance. Puppy, working from home, y'all. So, hi, welcome. You want to be on camera? Yeah, you can make a cameo. Okay, so your faces and your dogs will show up on this recording. I'm so sorry. This is being recorded, and we'll send a link within a week. And feel free to participate. Please do ask your questions in the chat. You can drop them in the chat. And if you want to ask anything anonymously, you can go ahead into the chat, select my name, Hunter, and then you can DM me, and that way I can ask a question on your behalf. Or if there's any concerns that come up, feel free to drop that in the chat to me directly, and I can address that. You can also message Erica-Power to Fly chat and learn there. She's here to help us as well. So if you have anything that comes up, we're here to help you. Please be mindful if you do use the chat in the group setting, which I would love for you to do. Please be mindful. This is a shared space. This is a safe space. So please keep that in mind so that we can all have a great hour. And you can follow Power to Fly at all the things, on all the things, at Power to Fly. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can watch other chat and learns. You can check out the summits, so much great stuff, so many great resources. Okay, friends, that's enough of my housekeeping. So Kinesso here is the company we are chatting with. This is the landing page on the Power to Fly website. You can check out the many job listings. As you can see a little screenshot there, there's a lot of awesome opportunities here. You can see other great resources, some videos. So that link is probably being dropped in the chat by the amazing Erica right now. Thank you, Erica. So this company, they are focused on creating data-driven solutions, products, and services that help marketers amplify the impact of traditional and addressable media, making their marketing smarter, faster, and more efficient, kind of like the Daft Punk song. As part of Kinesso, Matterkind is at the forefront of addressable media and cross-channel advertising, leveraging data and technology on behalf of their clients and driving positive business outcomes through conscious marketing. Together, Kinesso and Matterkind bridge the MarTech, I love it, and Adtech gap and maximize media performance. Okay, friends. So that's our company. We have two, like I said, not one, but two speakers today. So cool. So Gladys is currently manager of activation and strategy at Matterkind with 4 years of experience in media planning and buying. She is an expert digital marketer, helping brands drive growth through programmatic media buying. She has a background in both planning and execution across multiple biddable channel types, bringing a holistic approach to programmatic advertising. Oh my gosh, you're gonna have to say that for me because it better just rolls off your tongue much better. And Joseph is a seasoned marketing professional with over 10 years of industry experience. He has built the media strategy for domestic and international campaigns for Burberry, Verizon, heard of them, ExxonMobil, Bayer, and Hadi Koi. What is that one? I actually don't know that one.
Coty.
Coty, thank you. His work spans acquisition and retention strategies, new to market campaigns, brand position and repositioning, and target audience building that have produced effective campaigns to future-proof and create in-market messages for said brands. So please welcome Joseph and Gladys. Give them a digital round of applause. Hi, friends. How are y'all?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. So the way this works, friends, is over the next 55 minutes, I'll be asking some questions that y'all pre-submitted to us in advance. So I can't see who submitted them. It's anonymous now for those pre-submitted questions. So we're going to go down that list and ask those questions. And if questions come up for you, and I hope they do, please feel free to drop those in the chat as we are going along. So, so before we jump into questions, friends, Joseph and Gladys, and Joseph, we can start with you. Is there anything you'd like to mention about maybe your career journey or where you're at or some intentions for today that I did not touch on that you would like to just say hey and before we jump in?
Well, thank you for hosting, Gladys and I. This is like a really good opportunity for us to really speak to the future leaders in the marketing space. So thank you guys for taking the time to interact with us throughout this this panel and for all the questions that you guys have submitted. I was once in your position and Gladys was as well. And you guys will be the future leaders within this space. So hopefully we can share some of like things that's happened across our journey and where we've landed at now, and then hear from you guys as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Way to kick us into an optimistic state right out of the gate. I appreciate that. Thank you. And Gladys, how about you?
No, I think Joseph covered it. We're super excited to be here sharing with you guys today our journey. Thank you so much to Kinesso and Matterkind for giving us this opportunity. Special shout out to Christina for working with us through the past couple of weeks. And then thank you to everyone at Power to Fly. You know, you guys have been so helpful these past couple of weeks, and we're just really grateful for this opportunity.
Awesome. And we're grateful to have you. So thank you both for making the time today. So we're going to start with some pre-submitted questions. And like we've said, please do drop them in the chat as well as they come in for you. So let's kick it off. So we can bounce back and forth. I'll let y'all just kind of jump in as you like. So someone asked, how did y'all get started in addressable activation field? And what did those first steps look like? And also, if I can back up a little bit, for maybe some folks don't know exactly what that is, if you could define that space for us and then jump into that question. Gladys, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, so addressable activation, it's part of like marketing. So at Matterkind and Kinesso, there's the planning side and then there's the activation side. I like to think of this as, you know, there's someone that builds a blueprint for a house. And then there's the architect that actually like builds out the house. You know, the blueprint is made of saying, you know, there's going to be rooms here, there's going to be a backyard, the bathroom's going to be here, and then the actual architect and builders build the house. So we have the planning side that plans all the media activations for our clients, and then we have the addressable activation side, the people actually going into the platforms and running the campaigns, optimizing them. And yeah, so there's those two differences. I started my journey in 2018. I had recently graduated from college. I knew I wanted to be in marketing. I just didn't know where. There's so many areas that you can go in advertising and marketing. As a recent grad, I was just applying to anything and everything, hoping something would stick. I was like, I need a job. I can't just be laying on my parents' couch all summer. So I was applying to everything. I had probably applied to maybe 200 places. Maybe I got like 10 callbacks, maybe like 3 interviews. So I was like, something's wrong. I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I just suck at interviewing. So maybe I need to get better at that. So I was practicing interviewing while still applying. And then a friend from college, she had reached out and said, hey, my company is hiring for a programmatic strategist. And the first thought was, what is programmatic? That sounds like programming. I didn't go to school for coding. I don't even know what that means. So I was like, this job probably is not a fit for me. Either way, she sent me the job description, and I was even more confused with the job description. It talked about DSPs, SSPs, just like all these ad tech terms. And I was like, I definitely can't do this job. So I'm definitely not going to apply. But I think it was fate. I was scrolling through LinkedIn later that day, and it said something like, even if you're not 100% qualified, even if you're not 80% qualified, or even 70%, you should still apply and let them tell you no. So I was like, okay, I think this is a sign that I should apply. So I applied. days leading up to my interview, I went on YouTube, the whole YouTube University. You guys all know about that, and was just searching programmatic 101s. What is programmatic? What is the landscape? Just trying to really get myself familiar with what it was so I'd be prepared for the interview. And I went into the interview and, just really showcase my skills, the skills that I had from all these other jobs that I had done. I'd say, hey, like I don't have industry related experience. I don't have corporate experience, but I have all these other skills that I have gained throughout all these jobs that I have done. And I also know what programmatic is. It's the use of, technology and data to reach the right person at the right time. I was like, I don't know much past that, and I'm not going to try to explain all the jargon that I was trying to learn, but here it is, and here I am. Fortunately for me, I got the job. Shout out to Helen and Melissa for taking a chance on me. And then, I've never looked back since.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And as promised, when you said programmatic, see, I'm still stumbling over. You're just like, boom, boom, boom. Sounds great when you're talking about it. And yes, getting some great shout outs in the chat here. Tina says, love your story. So thank you for sharing that, Gladys. So relatable and inspiring that you didn't let that stop you from getting that opportunity. I loved hearing your story more in depth, Gladys. Yes, yes. So awesome. And I think it's so important. Thank you for sharing too, about that ratio of 200 applications, 10 callbacks, 3 interviews, and then you're like, oh, maybe there's room for improvement here on my side, but also knowing that there is this massive numbers game. Even, yes, of course, YouTube University and learning more about interview skills. We talk a lot about that here at Power to Fly. Those are all very important. And you still have to put yourself out there, even if you do all of that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it pays off. So here we are. Look at you, speaker in a talk. You're very successful in your world now, graduated in 2018. I mean, it truly is. It's inspiring. So thank you. Joseph, would you like to share a bit about how you got started in this field and what those early steps looked like, and maybe how it's changed a little bit now that you're in it?
I always wanted to be in the marketing space. I went to university for that, and I grew up in the UK. So I during university and after university, I was working at French Connection, and it was a small bespoke marketing agency that was across the street from French Connection. And I used to work in the changing rooms. So I'd look out the window and I'd see them going in and out of the office. And I was just like, I really want to work at a marketing agency. It looks so exciting to be there. So that wasn't my opportunity. It didn't start there, but that was the fire that was in me. Cause people would come in from that marketing agency and I'd have a chat with them. How is it? What'd you guys do? How can I get there? Can I have an interview? And I literally would speak to so many individuals. It was a very upscale neighborhood where I used to work. So there were a lot of people that were speaking to me about how I could get into this space. I then had applied for a real estate agency in the UK, and I was working there for a while. It was crazy hours. So I was doing starting at 6, 7 in the morning, finishing at 10 in the evening. And then because I had put my resume / CV together in a marketing structure, somebody from eBay had just hit me up and says hey, we have a temp job here where you would be a contractor. Are you interested in working in this space? But this was on the sales side of marketing, so selling ad space. And I was just yeah, I'm interested. It's we've acquired a few sites that are property sites, and we'd like you to help us sell those the ad spaces on there to people who own estate agencies or real estate agencies and individuals who are trying to find a place to buy or rent. And I was yeah, sure. So I had a 6-hour interview. It's crazy. And I cut my hair that day for myself as well, messed up my haircut. And then I got a job.
6-hour interview?
Yeah, they kept me in there for hours. It was in Richmond, which is near the River Thames. And I was in there and I was they kept sending another person to me. It's you don't have any experience, but we'd like you to meet somebody else because they have some questions for you. And so it was manager after manager. And I was just I was parched. I was just oh, this is tough. But they gave me the job, and that was my first start in advertising. So I worked there for 4 years, and then I moved into working at a network that you guys might be familiar with them, like Fox Media. So like I was soft launching their stuff into the UK, like selling their ad space. And then I moved over to working at Integral Ad Science, which is a ad tech company, which like helps advertisers like understand their viewability, which is a way to like track if someone's actually viewing an ad and interacting with it, and just everything in that space. I then moved away from there and I worked for Burberry, but at their agency, and they were like interested in hiring somebody. So that was my first agency job. So, and then from there, I've just worked agency side, marketing agency side. I've worked client side. I've worked for myself as well. But I would just say the way I was able to break in and say, similar to like Gladys, it's like I applied to so many jobs. Like I was on so many job boards, like my resume, my CV was everywhere. And that's how that individual, his name was Taz, was able to find my resume. And he found it on, I think like Job Site, which I don't know if it's big over here in the US, but he found it there and it gave me a call. So I think just it can be like discouraging when you don't hear back, but it is a numbers game of you, like to Gladys' point of like just applying, but also structuring your resume in a fashion that is appealing to those recruiters. And if we don't get to go into too much detail now on this call, you guys can set up time with Gladys and I, and we're happy like speak to you guys after this and like have a session with you guys of like how to structure your resume. But that's just the way in which you can get yourself out there. By just like applying, and that's what I did. And I had a lot of days where I was like really like upset, like, I was working in retail, like I was like, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to be stacking shelves or like folding clothes, but like, and I wanted to be in marketing. So I just kept applying and you'll break in. But we'll also like give you some of the tools that we didn't have access to, but we just found out on our own, and that you guys can use to like leverage for yourself.
Oh my gosh, such inspiring stories from both of you. Thank you so much. I love that. Someone in the chat there, Tina says lessons in perseverance. Absolutely. Just like time and time again. So good. Some heart emojis. We got a lot of love in this room today. I'm feeling it. This is great. So friends, as you're getting inspired, feel free to drop questions in the chat. This is your time. So we love to hear from you. So, and also, Joseph and Gladys, while I'm asking the next question, if you want to drop in the chat, like best ways for folks to stay connected with you, if it's your LinkedIn and stuff like that, I'll also repost it at the end, but we can go ahead and do that just so you made that invitation. So I love, a bit of immediacy. So friends that might've been on someone's mind. So we have all these pre-submitted questions. They're so good. Another question that came up was, how can a candidate with a non-traditional background stand out for a role in ad tech? What's the best way to present our previous experience during the interview process? This is great. So Joseph, I know you just answered, but knowing that a bit about your background, it sounds like this might be a question for you.
Yeah, I think Gladys and I have spoken about this over the last couple of days of like how we were able to sort of like make our resume CV like distinguished and be a little bit more appealing to recruiters like Christina when they're looking for candidates. So there's a lot of like courses that you can do online where you can get certifications, like with the Trade Desk, with Amazon, with Google. Those are like really good ways and to help your resume stand out. And having those to a recruiter and to a hiring manager like myself or Gladys, like when we see that you've taken those certifications, it's like the first steps that position yourself of being ready to like join this space. So we both worked in the service sector before we came over to this into this industry. But all those skills that you gain from working in that sector will definitely be things that you have to apply over here, like people management or customer service, being able to speak to different types of individuals or interact with different people, work in different teams, etc., lead a team. All those skills are transferable, and you should try to speak to those in your resume. And don't feel shy to speak about like how you worked in that industry, because that that experience is applicable. It's some of the individuals that haven't had that experience are sometimes at a disadvantage, and they've just come straight from university and they haven't had like service experience or experience in other sectors. So use that to your advantage and couple that with certifications that could really help when you're speaking to an interviewer or interacting with a recruiter as well. And what I would say is like schedule, like even when you can go on LinkedIn, you can find out who posted the actual job and you can message them on LinkedIn and say like, hey, I'd like to have a call with you to speak to you more about this job. Like, I'd like to apply, because that's a way to like set yourself out, like it's to stand out from the crowd when the recruiter is like, oh, I had a call from Kimberly. I'm just seeing Kimberly's name there. And she reached out and she spoke to me about this role, and I've got her resume now in front of me, and she can help you. Christina could help you position yourself for the interview when you then speak to Gladys for like a role. So I think that's just the best way to get those tips from the recruiter as well, like to find out like how you should position yourself for that specific role, and try to like curate your resume to like what the actual job you're applying for. Like, I have so many different versions of my resume when I'm looking for a job. And that's just the way in how you can position yourself for a set role, to like tailor it to like what that job description is, what they're looking for, the skills that they're looking for, even if it's your first time like moving into this industry.
Such great tips. Thank you for that. Gladys, anything you'd like to add on that?
Yeah, I definitely agree that like certifications help, especially in this industry. It kind of gives you an idea of what you're going to be learning and working on. I also think I hate when people say, you know, I don't have any experience in ad tech. That might be true, but you do have experience with all the other jobs and everything else you've done, right? So use that experience and speak on that. Use those examples. I love to share the story of a friend that I was helping. He, you know, had recently graduated. He was trying to get a job in something that I was doing, like in marketing. But he told me, he's like, I don't have any experience. And I was like, you know, that's a lie. Like you've never had a job. Like you're telling me you've never had a job. You're telling me you've never solved a problem at a job. So I asked him to sit down and write every job he's ever had, and then everything he's ever done for that job. And I think the last job he had done, he was working at his dad's like painting company. So I was like, okay, what did you do at your dad's painting company? Like, write everything down. He's like, well, sometimes when my dad has different projects, I have to, you know, be at one site and, you know, lead a team of like 8 painters, and just, you know, like watch over them, supervise them, whatever. So I was like, okay, so you're telling me you have project management experience, you have leadership skills. And I was like, keep going. He's like, okay, I've also had to, you know, meet up with clients and like give them estimates. So I was like, okay, so you're client facing, you have negotiation skills. I was like, I need you to like be in that mindset of like, no, I don't have any experience. Use the experience that you do have and tailor it to the job. So if, you know, you're looking at a job description, it says, you know, we want public speaking, communication skills, strategic thinking. Okay, cool. What jobs have you had that you are able to show an example of strategic thinking of what you've done? I think a lot of people get scared or shy away and think like I have no experience and I don't know what I'm doing, but use what you currently have. Like everyone has had a lot of experiences. Everyone has had times where they had to problem solve. So use that and be able to tell that story. I think storytelling and understanding like your path and your journey and being able to tell that story goes a long way.
Oh, it's so good. And you literally answered a question that came in from the chat as well. Someone asked, should you tailor every resume for every job post? Now, you're talking about tailoring to specific ones. Would you say everyone, or because between Joseph, he was like, oh, I have a versatile CV that's all over the place. And then you're like, well, I'll tailor it. So I know like the resume question is like, it's a can of worms question. So I love hearing different takes on it. So yes, this is great, but everyone's like, yeah, tailoring it. What do you all think? Gladys, you were saying yes, tailoring to each position.
Yeah, I think you should definitely tailor it to each position. You just don't want like a generic resume. Like, you know, if you're applying for a specific position and they're requiring XYZ, like make your resume toward that. It'll stand out more. It'll show that you're qualified for that job.
Love that. Okay, friends. So keep the questions coming. We have just over half an hour left. So this is the time to do it. Keep those questions coming. And I love too, that is such a great story, Gladys. Thank you for sharing that about the transferable skills is what we're talking about there. And I also love too, what made me think about what started thinking about when you're talking was like, you really did a big gift for your friend there, which was you were helping sort of translate what they are already good at into the ad space, jargon, language, things like that, or the corporate world. Whereas like, oh, I have all these things. There's so many different things that you could unpack in there. We were talking about, that's essentially, you're talking about imposter syndrome is what your friend was feeling. Also, what you did for your friend was like mentorship, so there's so many great things there that are available. So I don't know. I just wanted to like highlight some of those great things that you're talking about. Okay, so another pre-submitted question we had was because we've talked about this a little bit, which is great. How critical are certifications to transitioning into ad tech? I'd love to pivot from sales into ad tech, but don't have any industry related certificates. Do you have any recommendations? So we talked about some of these already, and some also popped up in the chat. Anything else you'd want to tack on to this conversation that we sort of happen to already address a little bit?
I don't think they're like, go ahead, guys, sorry.
Oh, no, I would say I don't think they're like critical, but I think they help you go a long way. So like all these, we shared a bunch, Joseph and I shared a bunch of like certifications with you guys at Power to Fly. Hopefully, you guys can share that out with everyone, but they're not, I wouldn't say they're critical, but I would say they would give you a leg up. Like all these certifications help you understand what the industry looks like, help you understand if that's what an industry you really want to get into, help you also unpack like the jargon. There's so many acronyms, there's so much to learn in ad tech. And a lot of these certifications, I was looking at them and they have a lot of one-sheeters that are like glossaries of like all the jargon in the ad tech. And even just knowing that helps you go a long way and be prepared for like interviews, be prepared to take that first job. So again, I wouldn't say they're like critical, but I think that they help you really fast forward and stand out.
I definitely agree. Yeah, they're a nice to have, and they help you set yourself apart. So yeah, Gladys like nailed that.
Awesome. Also, shout out to Gladys. I don't know if you noticed this, Gladys, but someone started a hashtag for you in our chat. Hashtag Go Gladys, because you're so inspiring to them. So it's going to be blowing up on social media. Watch out.
Love that.
Amazing.
Yep. We also had a great comment from Tyler in the chat that I love this tip too. Action verbs are also key as opposed to responsible for or duties include. I love action verbs. That's really smart.
I think,
yeah, please.
Just to add on for the certification. So if certification is something that you're not able to do, I think, and you just may not have the time just because you're working or you're studying or just like you have other life things that are priorities for you. I think what's really good is if you can fit some time in when you're commuting is just reading up on like on the industry. So there's a lot of different like publications that you can subscribe to as students or individuals that are not in the industry, which we subscribe to as well. And you can, catch up and be up to date with what's going on. Say, for instance, like cookieless or ways of targeting individuals on different platforms, or something that Facebook is doing new / Meta or TikTok advertisement. And so you can like subscribe to these publications or even set up Google alerts where you can choose like trending topics that will get sent to your email, and then you can just like catch up with like what's going on and read those articles. So you have a position when you come into an interview and they say like, you haven't got any certifications, but they say, is there anything that you want to discuss about like what's going on in the industry? You'll have some knowledge on it based off of the publications or the Google alerts that get sent to your inbox.
Very good tips. I love it. Okay, so we have exactly 30 minutes left, friends. So we just hit the halfway mark. Keep those questions coming. Next question we have is, when you think about your career journey, what factors played into how you approach your career development and opportunity? Gladys, would you like to jump into this one?
Yeah, so in terms of career development and opportunity, whenever I'm like analyzing different opportunities, I always remind myself, like, what do I actually want to learn and get out of this? So Matterkind is the second company I've worked for. The first company I was just doing kind of strategy. It was more of a strategic role. And like I said, there's the strategy and then there's the implementation side, right? And I could have, kept going in the strategy route, but I wanted to become a holistic programmatic / addressable professional. So that's when I started thinking about, a role that would allow me to learn the activation side. So that's what I'm currently doing now. So I just suggest, like, really understand what you want to learn and how you want your career to go. I could have, again, just gone the strategy route and kept climbing there, but I really wanted to learn the activation side to have that holistic approach. I remember when I was in strategy, I would ask my activation team to do XYZ, and they're like, "Girl, we can't do that." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not in the platform. Like I wasn't too I didn't have a lot of knowledge of what the platform can and can't do. It was more of the strategic role. So just really understand where you want to go. Also, I think Matterkind and Kinesso does a really great job of providing all these different training resources. I remember when I recently became a manager this year, and I was like, oh my God, I'm super excited, but also like, how do I be a good manager? And I remember taking a course on, on being a manager, and it gave a lot of great tips and resources. So I think if your company has internal resources too that can help you with your career development, definitely take advantage of those and use those.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Gladys. Joseph.
So like, I think like someone's asked the question, actually, what I do actually want to answer. What does our day-to-day look like? Because I think Gladys did a great way explain that in a lot of detail. So day-to-day for us, like essentially what we do is we work with an agency of record. So that agency holds a relationship with the brand. So say for instance, they may hold a relationship. I work on Exxon. That's one of the brands that I look after at Matterkind Kinesso. So that agency is the liaison with the brand. They understand their strategy. They work with them on budgeting. They work with them on planning. And then we as Matterkind, like, work with our sister agency who holds that relationship and helps build out like addressable and digital campaigns for that brand. So there's a lot of like meetings where we look at how to strategize. We build out media plans. We look at like how much we're spending towards like a budget or a goal. We look how effective our tactics and our campaigns are, and we look to optimize those campaigns and those tactics so that we can drive better performance against like the clients like KPIs and their goals. So like each client like has a different way in which they want to reach and interact with their users or their target audience, and we have to build out a plan and make sure that we're aligning with that and reaching those goals and hitting those KPIs. So there's like a lot of communications, a lot of emails and conversations on Teams and Slack messages. Some of our team members like use Slack as well, and a lot of like one-on-ones and just like reviewing a lot of documentation, a lot of brainstorming. So that's what the day-to-day looks like report pulling, emails, team collaboration, planning and strategizing to like really be effective. Sometimes we have client exposure on ExxonMobil. We do interact with the client and we speak to them about how we're working on their campaigns. And some marketing agencies and some teams don't have as much exposure to a brand manager on the client side. So it varies.
I love that.
Any other questions?
Well, there was a related question, and maybe Gladys, you can jump in on this one. Was James asked, "Do you have any good tips on how to balance the work-life balance in this industry, in the business industry?"
Sorry, I was on mute and then I lost my mouse. Yeah, I definitely think it can be challenging at times managing that kind of work-life balance, especially during Q4. It's like the busiest time of the year for us, and also in the new year when we're ramping up on campaigns. So definitely think it sometimes can be difficult. But what I like to do is, structure my day in a way that I, have time for myself to complete tasks. We're all in meetings every day. We all have a bunch of meetings on our calendar. So I like to block off time for myself so I can get through the work that I need to get done in between meetings. I also, try to prioritize tasks. But yeah, I think during this season, it is a busy time. You probably are going to be on a lot later than you would probably like, but that's just how, that's typical for this industry.
Yeah, and this time of year with like the holidays and all that sort of stuff coming up, all those ads and that sort of that landscape, huh? How about you? How do you balance, Joseph, some work-life balance? Before the call, we were all talking about how we're all new pet parents, we're all new dog parents, and as we know, they require some time and attention.
They do. A lot of time and attention. I think I do this for myself, and also it's something that I push that my team does as well, is signing off early, like signing off at 6. I don't think it's good to sort of like work beyond a time where you then become ineffective, because like if you're stressed, if you're tired, if you're exhausted, you're probably going to make a mistake. You're probably going to run into more issues, because like you're like, oh, I've been on all day. I started at like 8. It's like 8 o'clock now. So I think it's sometimes like put the mouse down, close the laptop, and just like try to like sign on maybe a little bit earlier in the morning and finish that said project or item that you have to do. I think sometimes like crashing into a wall does not help. So reach out to your manager and just say like, hey, I can't complete this right now. But like do it in a timely fashion. Like don't do it at 6. Like maybe at 4, you're like, I'm running into a wall. Let the person know at that time who you're reporting into, or individuals who are stakeholders within that project, to be like, hey, I can't finish this on time. This is something that I'll get out to you in the morning. So I think always like put like buffers of when you can deliver something. Don't say you can deliver it like the time that you can. Say if it can take you an hour, you may want to let somebody know it's going to take you 3 hours. So that gives you time in which, because as someone said in the chat, like how do we manage like our days? So many different things like come onto our plates for us to like deal with and address. So it's just like it's managing the time in that way. How I make sure that like I take care of my mental health, and I know that this is something that Gladys does as well. It's something that I emphasize for my team members too as well. It's just like, don't think about work on the weekends. Like it's like we're not in an industry where we're saving lives. Yes, some of the campaigns that we work on do help save lives, but like this is like it's an ad. It can wait, and make sure you have to take care of your mental health and prioritize that first. So like signing off early, like having a social life, whether even if it's just like just taking a day, going to a gallery, going to a museum, spending time with your family. Like make sure you have those things outside of work where you're able to diffuse and we're able to relax and think about other things beyond work, because then that that sets you up for success for when Monday comes around. You fully either relaxed or rested, or you've done something else that's not related to work, so that you can apply yourself again, because you don't want to burn yourself out.
Right, your cup's got to be full.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great tips. And Christina also mentioned that in the chat there that Kinesso and Matterkind also provides employees 25 days off in a year plus unlimited PTO. So some sweet perks there. And I'll redirect you back to that. Kinesso is hiring, so check out that link. Maybe you can be the beneficiary of those unlimited PTO days and be part of the team over there. So there's great questions coming in now. I love it. It's all fired up now. And lots of great tips as well. So keep those coming. We had a question here from the chat that we were just talking about like self-care, and I feel like this is related to the other side of it. For an industry, there is also a high turnover of employees due to intense management demands. What do you think is best to do when you're having difficult managers, or maybe someone on your team is difficult, things in that nature?
I'll jump in there because I've managed a few teams, and I think what the issue that managers like run into is having one approach to manage like everyone. Everyone needs to have like a tailored approach. You should try to have an individual relationship with each individual on your team. Sometimes things don't go to plan. Sometimes budgets change. Sometimes we're not able to promote people in the time or the fashion that they want to. And it's a business, so sometimes things are impacted that are out of a manager's control. But I think the best thing is to keep morale up and to have like clear communication with individuals that are on your team, and have clear communication with your manager about your expectations and your goals. I think the best way to sort of like approach it is if, you know, there's been times when I've wanted to be promoted and it just wasn't right for the business at that time. It's like having that relationship with your manager and with the company and figuring out when that's going to happen, and how you can continue to work towards that. So don't give up at the first hurdle of when you don't get the promotion that you wanted there and then. That opportunity will arise again in the future, and work with your manager and the company wherever you're at to like figure out what those timelines look like, and what you need to continue doing so that that is a possibility for yourself. I think that's a key thing where a lot of times like individuals like struggle with that. Maybe look for a mentor internally or externally from your business of how you can put yourself in a position to make sure that you're promoted. And don't be disheartened like when it doesn't happen. Then it's gonna happen. Like there's, you know, business is gonna the business is gonna bounce back. The industry is gonna bounce back. Like there's peaks, and there are you know, like mountains, like peaks and valleys within any business. And there's an opportunity for growth that will always like come up and arise. So yeah, just stay on the ball.
Yeah, talking about perseverance yet again, persistence and perseverance and patience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Patience is key. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that is a good word. That I think we live in this sort of like instant era where we expect like things to happen straight away, but sometimes they don't. And Gladys and myself's like career journey has like been sometimes where we've had stops and places where we needed to wait for things to happen, but they did turn out the way we expected and the way we wanted them to.
Awesome. So we have just a little over 15 minutes, friends. Great questions coming in, so I'm going to keep pulling ones from the chat now. Someone asked, what resources would you recommend to someone who is trying to break into the ad tech industry? Gladys, you want to any resources that you could recommend? We've talked about a few here.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned a bunch of the resources. So for example, yesterday I was making sure that these would actually work, but a lot of the partners that we work with, like the DSPs that we work with, the advertising technology that we work with, all of them offer like certifications and like a lot of information on their site. I think that's a great resource if you want to break into the ad tech, because it'll also like really show you if that's what you want to work in. Like it'll start breaking down that jargon for you. It'll give you that leg up. So I know we shared a bunch with you guys at Power to Fly. So yeah, I think take a look at those resources that we shared. Those will definitely help you stand out and get like your feet wet into the ad tech space.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll drop that link in again too for the landing page, and that'll take you to the Power to Fly website where you can see the landing page for this awesome company. And there's a bunch of resources there provided for you. And you got two resources right here. You got Gladys, you got Joseph. They're on LinkedIn. You can link up with them. That's another great way to do that. So please do check all of that out. Okay, so what else we got? Someone asked, I am currently shadowing someone. I'm currently shadowing some ad tech professionals in my company, and I already feel intimidated by all the concepts and responsibilities. And here's this topic we hinted at earlier. Any tips for fighting imposter syndrome when making this transition?
That's Gladys and I spoke about this literally before the call, and it's like something that we also like we face even now. Like I had imposter syndrome coming from like retail, even though like I had gone to university for marketing. And you know, it's just like, am I supposed to be here? Like, yes, you are. Like, you're supposed to be here. This is where you're supposed to be, if this is like somewhere that you want to be, right? So I think it's just like you have to have you know, that self-belief belief, because you might be surrounded by a lot of people that may doubt you. And I think when you believe in yourself and then you apply yourself, you're able to, like, you know, prove that you belong here to yourself, really. So it's like proving to yourself versus proving to anybody else. And I think it's just like applying yourself on a day-to-day basis, like, and just, you know, keep yourself motivated, whatever it might be. You might have a playlist, you might exercise in the gym, you might drink a coffee before you start work, whatever it is to like get you going in the morning, and just like believe yourself, like pump yourself up for it. Like, I belong here, I can do this, and I can add value. Like, those are things that you could probably, you know, speak to yourself with, like, and have those like similar you know, affirmations that you can start your day off with. But it's like believing in yourself, because that's the key thing. That's where it starts.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Joseph.
Yeah, just jumping in there. I still feel the imposter syndrome. I've been in the industry for 4 years. I've talked to VPs that still feel that. I have friends that own successful businesses that still feel like an imposter in their field. I remember when I first started, I think maybe like a month into it, I was on meetings and they were talking about DSPs, SSPs, KPIs, benchmarks, measurement. And I was like, I have no idea what anyone's talking about. And I kept thinking, like, do I even belong here? Like, are they going to fire me? Are they going to find out that I don't know anything? So I think it's a very real feeling. There isn't like a magic pill that will make that feeling ever go away. I think imposter syndrome is real. I think people experience it throughout their entire career. But for this specific person, they said that they're in meetings, right? Look around the room and just understand that all those people that are in that room with you also started off where you are right now. Like, all those people were not born knowing all these terms. They were not born experts. They had to learn everything, just like this person's learning all of that. So just like keep that as a reminder in the back of your head that you will also learn. And it takes time. I would say it took me about like a year to become fully comfortable and being able to talk about the ad tech space and programmatic. So also don't overwhelm yourself. If you don't get everything, in the first couple of months, it takes a lot of time. It's like learning a new language. And also give yourself some credit, pat yourself on the back. You're in that room, you're doing the thing, like you're learning. So give yourself some credit.
Great advice. Be kind to ourselves. It's so important, and it's often one of the hardest things to do, right? The imposter syndrome, I've struggled with it. I still struggle with it. And, some great advice I got too is that voice in my head is very rude sometimes, very, very rude. And a friend of mine said to me, like, would you say any of those things to anyone else? It's like, no, never. I would never talk that way to anyone. I was like, well, maybe try talking to yourself in a way that you would talk to a friend that you are encouraging along the way, and like, if you heard your friends saying those things about themselves, what would you say in response to them? So I try to, maybe I look like we were talking about, we all live in New York. Maybe I, another wacky New Yorker on the street talking to myself in my headphones, but it's self-care. It's self-care. Okay, we got less than 15 minutes. We got 12 minutes left, friends. So keep those questions coming. I would love to hear about as well. Someone asked a great question in the chat. Here it is. Someone asked, once entering ad tech, what were the hardest transitions and learning curve issues? How did you overcome them once you were in the role, if you lacked support from your team? So maybe you got support from your team, but if you didn't, what were some of those learning curves, and how did you get through that?
Building presentations. So that's the thing. I think so when I worked on Burberry, as you can imagine, everything needs to be sort of like beautiful. Like, a deck needs to look beautiful and also have the content, not have too much content on it. And the funny thing about it, like, I remember we were getting ready to go to Burberry's offices, and they're in Pimlico in London. And I was building a presentation, and the global vice president, his name is JG, a French gentleman, kept saying to me, the deck is not right. You need to do it again. So I did it again. I did it again. I did it again. And it then looked beautiful after 5 attempts. Ironically, I got to the office to present it to the client, and the client was closed my laptop and was just like, I don't want to see the presentation. But it was a way in which like it got my skills in which in two sort of like a two-pronged approach, which helped me to like not rely on a deck and not rely on a presentation, but be able to put one together. So like know the content, it look nice. It's something that won't distract the audience, where it doesn't have too much information, where they're like reading it and you're reading off the slides. So I got to learn how to put one together, and I got to learn how to like not rely on a deck when presenting to a client. And that was a global like brand director that I was speaking to at Burberry. So I think that was like the hardest thing for me, because I think everyone thinks they can put a deck together because they've done it for university, but there's like a different structure in which you put it together when you work at a marketing agency or you work at a brand. It's like, and it varies from brand to brand of like how much information that they want to see on slides. But I think a personal tip is like work on like your PowerPoint building, but also like don't rely on it too heavily when you need to like present to an audience. Make sure that you're able to either have a talk track or you're able to speak to the topic as if it was like second nature.
These are such great tips. Thank you, Joseph.
No worries.
If anything you would, any learning curves and coming in and what helped you overcome them?
Yeah, I think a lot for me was just like the jargon that we've talked about, understanding how like the pieces fit together, how we worked with different stakeholders. And what I would say is just ask a bunch of questions, ask all the questions. I think I was at the beginning of my career, I was hesitant to ask questions because I was scared that they're going to think I'm like I'm an idiot because maybe I should know this and I don't. But ask a bunch of questions, and when you get the answers, regurgitate it, like regurgitate it back in your own words, so you know that you're understanding the topic. I tell, I have two people that work under me, and I tell them every day, like, ask me all the questions. If I, already answered it and you're still not getting it, I will, answer that question 100 times in a different way until you like learn the concept. Because the worst thing that can happen is, you don't know it today and you don't ask the question, 5 months from now, you still don't know it.
Right.
It's better just to, ask all the questions, really get the material down, and then keep moving.
It's so good. It's so important and such good advice. Someone asked in the chat relatedly, like, what do you do when you're new and you have no idea what's going on in a meeting? And I think you just answered it, is like ask questions, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, be annoying and ask all the questions. Like, you're better off learning that now than, a couple months later and you're still kind of not in the know. Just like ask all the questions.
Right. Especially when you're new, you have that grace period, really. I mean, I think, or that freedom for ourselves, the grace period to ourselves, right? Because what we're talking about, again, is imposter syndrome. It's like, oh, I don't want to look dumb. I don't want people to think I'm not good at my job and da 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 da. It's like, well, but how do we learn? We ask questions, we make mistakes. I love your like repeating back in your own words, because it's also, if you're doing that with someone you trust, it's an invitation for team building, because people will be like, yes. And also this one part, actually, if I could offer up, like you missed something, and like, then you're like having a dialogue and actually can bring us closer together. I quote Brene Brown all the time, vulnerability is a courageous act. And so asking questions is courageous. It is vulnerable. It may not feel good at first, but we can actually get better at it by practicing it and doing it. And like Gladys was saying, like, keep asking questions, like to the point of nauseum. It's good. It's very important. Teamwork makes the dream work, James said in the chat. I agree. So we have just 6 minutes left. Could y'all share about, Joseph and Gladys, other like, we were talking about what helped y'all in like overcoming things. Are there internal resources at Kinesso and Matterkind that are available that, have helped you, that might be of interest to people that are looking to apply? Joseph, I already see you nodding, so I'm gonna call on you.
Yeah, we have a lot of resources, and Gladys and I were speaking about them prior to this call. Like we have a grow sort of like site where we can access resources across like all different things that we need to know in the industry, tools like courses, internal courses as well. So they have been really useful for us as well. We read a lot like across, like we still do that as well. Like I read publications when I get a chance. Like I have like emails come through with my Google notifications as well. So those are resources that I tap into that are outside of our company that are really useful for me as well. And then to be completely frank, like I still call some of my friends that live abroad that work in this industry, and I run things by them. Like, Helen, who hired Gladys, like one time we were trying to figure something out, and I was like, wait, let me just call one of my ops friends that lives in Germany. And I gave her a call, and I was just like, hey, we're encountering this. Like, what's your thoughts on this? Obviously, we didn't share any like client specific things. It was more of us just like trying to find out like how we should do something. And I think that's like leaning on to other people, like finding mentors within the industry and finding mentors with outside of the industry that could help you as well. But those are the things that we tap into internally and externally from like my perspective. Yeah.
Love that. Gladys, any other resources that you'd like to highlight from the teams that have maybe helped you, or other things that might be of interest?
Yeah, no, I think Joseph covered it. We have a lot of internal resources that Matterkind and Kinesso put together. I think I mentioned this earlier that I became a manager this year, and I was a little bit like scared, and I wanted to be a good manager. So I took some of like the courses and some of the information that Kinesso and Matterkind has on managing people. And I was like, okay, this is really helpful. And I felt a lot better going into the new position.
Awesome. So in these last couple minutes, we asked the two of you some questions beforehand. I actually don't know which one of you answered which one, because you can do both. So I'll let you read it out loud. I'll ask the question. I'll let you say it. So how would you describe the culture in one word?
I said uplifting.
Uh-huh.
I said inspiring. There's a lot of people that inspire me. I said this to Gladys. I was like, Gladys inspires me as well. So like, yeah, there's a lot of people here that inspire me.
Oh, I love that. Feeling the love. Hashtag go Gladys. Trending.
Love that.
Yes, so do we. What's your favorite part about working at Kinesso Matterkind?
I said the people, coming from a different agency, I really saw how different people were. I really felt like my leaders, my higher ups cared about me and my growth. It's not something that I felt at the other agency. Also, like, my first week at Matterkind, I had all these VPs, SVPs, directors like pinging me saying, hey, welcome. That's not something that I've ever encountered at any other agency. Like SVP pings you and say, hey, welcome, let's have a chat, want to get to know you. That was something that was really surprising to me. So yeah, definitely the people.
Awesome.
I said the culture, it's a great culture, like, and there are like sort of like micro cultures within the organization and the industry. And there's like a lot of people, especially within Kinesso, Matterkind, and even like our sister agencies like where I've been able to just like have chats with, just like have conversations with, like reach out to, and it's really fun. Like, we have a lot of activities that we have, like, I think on a bi-weekly basis, like we have like company drinks and pizza and just other things where we do like charity things together. So there's like a real community that we have here at Kinesso Matterkind.
Love that. And in our last couple minutes, what are the top tips for someone who is interviewing that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I said be yourself and know what you bring to the table. This goes back to the example that I use, like know your skill sets, know your strengths, whether you have professional corporate experience or not. Like everyone brings something to the table. Your experiences are unique. Learn to tell a story and learn how to highlight those, and always have like examples of how you work through a tough task and stuff like that. But be yourself. Like don't try to be anyone else in those interviews, because you have a lot to bring to the table.
I love that. And the storytelling too is so good. And like in stand-up comedy, it's called a tight five. Get your tight five together. So you just like, I have my story, highlights my leadership skills and like the things that like you said about your friend with that you helped translate some of those those experiences into a great story. And and it works. How about you, Joseph?
I said be confident. I think, like whatever you want to do, like whether you're in this industry and you're looking to like pivot to another company, or you're interested in roles at Matterkind or Kinesso, or you're just entering the space, like be confident, like you belong here. And we need more people within Matterkind and Kinesso and in this industry that reflects like the individuals that have joined like this session. So like you guys inspire me. So be confident. Like, like I started off like, just like you guys, like if you're entering this space, or I've wanted to pivot my career, just like some of you individuals as well on this call. So like, be confident, you can do it. You belong here and there's a space for you here. So yeah.
Oh, bookending us with optimism. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Gladys. It was so great to have you here this hour. As you can see in the chat, Christina dropped in just a truckload of great links, and Erica also put some stuff up there. So be sure to follow Kinesso, Matterkind on our page. If you go to apply to a job through the Power to Fly website, Kinesso Matterkind will see that, so they will know that you're here. So you might stand out a little bit. Pro tip, and do check out all of the links there that Christina posted. So let's give Joseph and Gladys a round of applause. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your time with your puppies. And thank you so much again for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.